Roman Reigns loses control. Tongan grip stuns Roman. Roman Reigns trapped again. Raw shock, Roman down. Roman's power cracks. Tribal chief in trouble. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let's dive into it. What if the most dominant man in WWE right now isn't actually in control anymore? And what if the one thing Roman Reigns fears the most isn't losing a championship but losing the power that made him untouchable in the first place? Because after what went down on Raw, you can argue that something deeper is happening here, something that goes beyond wins and losses, beyond titles, beyond the usual bloodline drama we've all gotten used to. This felt like a shift, like one of those moments you don't fully understand while it's happening, but later you look back and say, yeah, that's where everything started to fall apart. And the craziest part is, it didn't come with a long speech, it didn't come with some dramatic announcement, it came through silence, force, and that terrifying move that's now got everybody talking, the Tongan Death Grip. Now before we even get into that moment, let's slow this down for a second because the buildup matters, the details matter, the little things that usually get overlooked are exactly what make this situation feel so different. Roman Reigns walked into Raw the same way he always does, slow steps, calm face, that quiet confidence that says I don't need to prove anything to anyone, I've already done it all. You know the vibe, you've seen it 100 times, the tribal chief doesn't rush, he doesn't panic, he doesn't react, he controls. That's been his entire identity, control the ring, control the people around him, control the outcome before the match even begins, and for years it worked perfectly. But this time, something felt off, not immediately obvious, not something you could point at right away, but it was there, like background noise you can't quite ignore. The crowd was loud, but not in the usual way, it wasn't just cheers or boos, it was anticipation mixed with confusion, like everyone felt that something unexpected was about to go down. And then it happened, no long introduction, no dramatic music build, just presence, the Tongans stepping in like they had something to prove and no interest in wasting time. And from that moment, everything shifted. Roman did what Roman always does, he stood his ground, he fired back, he tried to assert dominance immediately because that's how he survives, that's how he wins, he doesn't let situations spiral, he shuts them down before they even get started. But here's the problem, this wasn't one of those situations he could control. You could actually see it, and I'm not even exaggerating here, there was a split second where his expression changed, just slightly, but enough to notice if you were really paying attention. It wasn't fear, not exactly, Roman doesn't do fear like that, it was more like confusion, like his brain was trying to process something that didn't fit the script he's been living in for years. And then it happened, the moment that flipped everything on its head, the Tongan Death Grip locked in. No flash, no theatrics, just sudden, brutal control. And the wild part is how quickly it changed the entire energy of the situation. 1 second Roman Reigns is the center of power, the guy everyone revolves around, and the next second he's stuck, frozen, unable to break free. You could see him trying, hands moving, body shifting, looking for any kind of escape, but nothing worked, and the more he struggled, the tighter it seemed to get. It's almost like the move feeds off resistance, like the more you fight it, the deeper it pulls you in, and for the first time in a long time, Roman wasn't the one in charge of what was happening to him. That's the part that really hits, not just that he was caught, but that he couldn't fix it, he couldn't reverse it, he couldn't turn it into one of those comeback moments we've seen him pull off so many times before. And if you were watching closely, you saw it, that look, that brief flicker in his eyes that said this isn't going the way it's supposed to. That moment right there, that's the kind of thing that sticks with a character, that's the kind of thing that lingers in the back of your mind, even after the match, even after the show ends, even after the crowd goes home. And I'm telling you right now, if that moment got to him, if that realization actually settled in, then we're not just looking at a temporary setback, we're looking at the beginning of something much bigger. Let me know in the comments if you caught that too, because I know I'm not the only one who saw that shift, it was subtle but it was real. And here's where it gets even deeper, this didn't come out of nowhere. If you've been paying attention, you already know the bloodline hasn't exactly been stable lately, there's been tension, miscommunication, loyalty being questioned, cracks forming under the surface that nobody wanted to fully acknowledge. And now this happens, Roman gets caught, gets neutralized, gets put in a position where he looks human again, and suddenly all those cracks don't feel so small anymore. They feel like warning signs. Because in WWE, dominance isn't just about strength, it's about perception, it's about whether people believe you're unstoppable. The second that belief starts to fade, everything else follows. Opponents get bolder, allies get uncertain, enemies get smarter, and before you know it, the empire you built starts to shake. And that's exactly what this felt like, not the fall, not yet, but the shake before it. The Tongan Death Grip wasn't just a move, it was a message, loud and clear: your control isn't absolute anymore. And if you think about it, that's way more dangerous than just losing a match. Because Roman can recover from a loss, he's done it before, but recovering from doubt, that's a whole different battle. And now every superstar watching that moment is thinking the same thing: if he can be trapped like that, if he can be taken out of control like that, then maybe he's not as untouchable as we thought. That kind of thinking spreads fast, faster than any storyline, faster than any promo, and once it spreads, it's almost impossible to contain. And I know some of you are probably saying he's Roman Reigns, he'll bounce back, he always does, and yeah, that's fair, history is on his side, but this doesn't feel like those other times. This feels like something is changing underneath the surface, something that isn't going to be fixed with just one comeback or one big win. This feels like the start of a new version of Roman, and whether that version is more dangerous or more vulnerable, we don't know yet. That's what makes this so interesting. So now the big question is, what happens next? Does Roman come back with more aggression, more intensity, trying to re-establish the dominance before the doubt spreads any further, or does this get into his head? Does it linger? Does it affect the way he approaches everything moving forward? Because if it does, then we're about to see layers of this character we haven't seen in a long time. And honestly, that might be the most exciting part of all this. But I want to hear from you: was this just a shocking moment meant to stir things up, or are we actually witnessing the beginning of the end of Roman Reigns' absolute control? Drop your thoughts down below. Seriously, I read these, and I want to know where you stand on this. And if you're enjoying this kind of deep breakdown, this kind of storytelling where we actually look beyond the surface and connect the dots, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stick around because this story is far from finished. This feels like the start of a new version of Roman, and whether that version is more dangerous or more vulnerable, we don't know yet. That's what makes this so interesting. So now the big question is, what happens next? Does Roman come back with more aggression, more intensity, trying to re-establish the dominance before the doubt spreads any further, or does this get into his head? Does it linger? Does it affect the way he approaches everything moving forward? Because if it does, then we're about to see layers of this character we haven't seen in a long time. And honestly, that might be the most exciting part of all this. But I want to hear from you: was this just a shocking moment meant to stir things up, or are we actually witnessing the beginning of the end of Roman Reigns' absolute control? Drop your thoughts down below. Seriously, I read these, and I want to know where you stand on this. And if you're enjoying this kind of deep breakdown, this kind of storytelling where we actually look beyond the surface and connect the dots, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stick around because this story is far from finished. Something tells me we're only at the beginning of this shift, and if this is how it starts, I can't even imagine how far it's going to go. Because when the tribal chief starts losing his grip, even for a second, the entire landscape changes, and right now, whether people want to admit it or not, that change has already begun. Alright, that's all from me for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.